Oi guys, welcome to VALORANT News. After Sentinels' result against G2 last weekend, their coach Kaplan has come up with his assessment on the way that the team is standing right now. Sen are still in a good position to qualify for this year's World Championship, but if they play like they did against G2, it is going to be far more challenging into more difficult matches you would think, without a substitute to come. Kaplan reckons that the mental component is a big deal for Sen. When they play their best, they can beat anyone, but it's difficult to always get there. Why is that, and how can they resolve that over the next couple of weeks? Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. The first thing to say, I don't know what's going on here, but I saw this floating around. Japanese idol group SKE48 is starting a Game Changers team. They're going to have an all-female Valorant esports team with up to 7 group members, with up to 7 current group members. So they're going to do a press conference to unveil the full roster in a few days. I don't know, actually it's pretty much this time next month, to be fair, in Nagoya. So yeah, I don't know, we'll stay tuned for that. Valorant continues to go crazy out in the Pacific, and certainly the Japanese scene needs more representation, in the sense that the players, unfortunately, are not really delivering for the fans so much as of late. But this was a big result. So Bilibili Gaming, they got the dub against Titan Esports Club, a nice little 2-0 yesterday, and yeah, BLG have been making some serious waves lately. They won the bind 13-9, then they took the ascent 13-8, and Titan Esports Club go down. T-Virus, Luke and the boys over there. But yeah, Neff, Knight and, you know, Hoozy and the guys on BLG puts them in a really nice position, because as you can see from the bracket on the left-hand side, with a 3-0 start for Bilibili Gaming, they are now guaranteed to make it through to the playoffs, right? So, you know, they're in a group with Edward, with Trace Esports, with Ty Lu, with, of course, JDG, TC. Okay, TC have now moved to 0-3. So a victory that certainly BLG would have hoped to accrue, but yeah, they got that win yesterday, and the other game is going to be, yeah, so you've got FPX DRG going on today in a couple of hours' time. That's going to be pretty telling in Group Omega as well, although that group is looking kind of clear-cut, and especially with Wolves' recent results starting off 0-3, it's a big uphill battle for them to somehow try and get back on track. So playoffs secured for Bilibili Gaming. Their wins over Tyloo, JDG and TEC have guaranteed they can't finish below the top 4. So they will be at the playoffs, and that's how relevant it is, of course, for the other teams that we'll get to here in a second. In Europe, we had Giant-X play BBL, and Giant-X, they get the win. This is big for them, right? After the changes that they've tried to make recently. Look, Cloud was always the player you were like, okay, this guy's talented, and they've got him stuck on some like crazy long-term contract, and it's good to see that they're actually finally putting some talent around him to actually justify that. They won the Icebox 13-7 on BBL's pick with a dominant second half. And then the Lotus was 13-11 back the other way, before Corrode was then 13-11 back. So, yeah, crazy game. Frustrated for BBL, I'm sure, to lose that one, given how competitive the series was. But fair play to Giant-X, they get over the line with a 2-1 result. And then we also had Apex play KC, and, you know, we're starting to see KC put together a stronger string of results lately. It does feel like, certainly in the second half, they've kind of found something, and with Salak at the helm, Sagetsu, Ave, Elite and Martina really starting to play some proper stuff. Now, yeah, Apex, were they the most competitive team? No. Do they continue to be the most competitive team? No, but after losing the Icebox 13-7 and winning the Sunset 13-11, they then went down on the Lotus 13-11. So again, very competitive series here, some banger 24 mappers, but in the end, the stronger teams probably took the victory. So the way that it's looking right now in Europe is as follows. Giant-X are 2-0 in their Group A, BBL are down at 0-2. So it's taking shape very, very interestingly already in all of the regions, right? Okay, Group Omega, there's not been quite so many matches played quite as of yet, and today we're going to have Gentomate versus Heretics, and then Team Liquid Na'Vi. So some really big games underway. You know, if Heretics get the winner, move to 2-0, that group is looking pretty clear. But and then Vitality versus Foot Esports is going to be a massively important game if Vitality want to turn something around from now to the end of the year as well. And let's talk about what it means for the Americas. So we'll have a look just now at what the numbers look like. So these are the standings in the Americas. This is how it looks. So G2 are at 19 points. They accrued 10 points in Stage 1, 3 at Masters 2, 3 at Masters 1, 3 at the kickoff. They are comfortably qualified. There's no way that 2 teams can pass them. So qualification for the World Championship, if you make it to the playoffs. So, of course, out of these 12 teams, 8 of them will make it to the playoffs in the Americas and around the world. If you finish top 2 at those playoffs, you qualify for the World Championship. If you don't, you then fall back on championship points. There's no last chance qualifier anymore. That's simply how it works. So, look, if G2 and Sentinels make the grand finals of the upcoming tournament, and the playoffs, that is, and that becomes easier if G2 still have Baby Bay, right? I mean, Sen just beat them in a match, G2 did not beat them in a match, and if G2 still have Baby Bay, or even if they do bring Leaf back in time for the playoffs, they might not quite be, spooling up enough to be at the level that they want to be at. So it may open the door for somebody else, because G2 are already automatically qualified. Maybe it opens the door for somebody else, let's say a Crew Esports, to make maybe a run to the Grand Finals and find themselves qualifying for the World Championship yet again. So for Sentinels, they shouldn't feel like their backs against the wall so much, but of course they want to feel like they're at a level that they can feel confident to actually win the World Championship. So Senna at 12 points, MLBR at 7, Crew at 6, EG at 5, 100 Thieves at 4, Cloud9 at 4, NRG down at 2, and everyone else is at 1 or fewer, with obviously not many wins internationally, and then Stage 1 not picking up too many points. That can turn around and pretty fast, right? G2 picked up 10 points last stage, so there's plenty of points on offer this stage, but it is mainly for those teams like NRG, 100 Thieves, mainly their thought process will be just to try and make the grand finals of the playoffs, and then they could qualify, and whatever happens on championship points happens. But not to say that it's impossible for these teams to accrue enough points to actually start to say, well, you never know, if G2 don't make it to the grand finals, then maybe there's an opportunity there. So for Sentinels, really all they've got to do is win a couple more series, they guarantee their spot in the playoffs, and then if they get to the playoffs, they should be fine to at least hang on to probably the second seed. But it's not guaranteed, and that kind of relies as well. Like, let's say Sentinels get enough points, they get to like 15 points. It's very difficult to imagine they're not going to be the second seed. And for Sentinels, if Leaf comes back and G2 then qualify for the grand finals, then all of a sudden it becomes more straightforward. But it's not clear at all that this is all sunshine and rainbows, because the result against G2 was not pleasing to many, and Kaplan said, yeah, there were some clean moments, there was a lot of super unacceptable stuff that we are so much better than, need to clean it up for the rest of the split. And Kaplan here in this interview that he did with Ravishing talks in some detail about how, yeah, at their peak level, they can beat anyone in the world, but they struggle to get there a lot of the time, and a lot of it is a mental component. They, whether it's pressure, whether it's a realization of, okay, we're in an important moment here, or we've just made a big mistake in an important moment, and to get mentally back in the right headspace to allow that to go out the window and reset and regather, that is the kind of spiraling that Kaplan's talking about here, which affects them in many big series.
I mean, we weren't ready on Ascent, and I'm definitely frustrated with the baseline that we had, even without being ready. But at the end of the day, it's unfair and it's wasted energy. You don't have a lot of time to prepare things. We didn't have a lot of time to prepare things, and neither did they. Obviously, they had even less time. I feel for them. So, just didn't really feel like we had the prep needed to close out that map, and that's going to happen when you're in a tough spot. It was a good pick from them, caught us off. So that happens. But a messy defense on Corrode, and then Lotus attack that's way below the bar, and some rounds in there on Ascent attack where it's nothing to do with prep or the map. It's just our decision making of the team. So I think there's a mix of we're not rising to the occasion when we need to, and we just need to be better and make better decisions. But also I think we also have to be better about it spiraling, right? Definitely think there's a case of mistakes are made, and then it causes more mistakes because you made a mistake, and it impacts your decision-making confidence, which increases the chance of further ones. And so the spiraling is a problem, but shouldn't even be in the spot where those initial ones are happening at the level they're happening.
No.
We're going to review the living crap out of it.
Yeah. Now, Bang did mention at the end that the team wasn't necessarily spiraling out of it, which, would you at least take that as a positive or not?
Yeah, I think there were moments where we were spiraling on our decisions, but I think we weren't in the end. Even when we were making a lot of mistakes, I would say on map 3, there was less spiraling about them, which I'll applaud him for. And the last half of Lotus, we were super locked in. Sounded great, played great. We could be so good. That's the hard part, right? That's the funny part about winning that game is I'm just so frustrated by some of these halves, and I know the guys are too. And then I don't know what it's like for people watching, but with the comms, you can feel it. I'm sure for the boys on stage, from you watching, you can feel when we're flowing, and it's like bittersweet to end a series when we're just flowing so well. Like we could beat anyone with the way that we were in that last half. So it's just like why couldn't that have been around all day? You know,
Yeah.
we gotta find it a little more easily and more often. And you know, I don't have the solutions right now, but I know what the problem is, and I know the guys do too.
Okay.
So.
Hey, to be fair, that's a good start.
So can Sentinels turn it around? Absolutely they can. Do they have enough time to do so? Because it does feel like this issue that we're discussing here has been a problem for quite some time really now for Sentinels this year, and it doesn't seem like that's necessarily changed. You know, I think Kaplan's doing a great job as a coach. I know that there's been talk certainly in other esports lately about, you know, performance coaching, having like a mental coach as it were, to make sure that the team can lock in when those kind of spiraling moments even from individuals happen. You make a mistake, then things start to go downhill, and the best teams don't fall victim to that as much as some of the weaker teams do. And I think it's clear what Sentinel's peak level is. And, you know, we've seen it on occasion, but it doesn't really feel like they're able to get to that level as often as they might like. So very much interested to your perspective on that in the comments below. Just a couple of scrim bucks. Heretics up 13-5. We don't know who against. MIBR were beating someone 19-2. So they might be back. Who knows? There was a rumor that, you know, the MIBR guys, they'd taken a load of time off. They weren't practicing very hard. Aspas isn't very motivated. And to be fair, many of those things may be true, but they were still beating someone 19-2 in the scrim, so I guess they will take that one. And then NRG, they were scrimming EG, and it was pretty close. You know, Som 12-9, Brock 12-9 up obviously against EG Nature. And there was some talk from FNS yesterday about what potential role changes they may or may not consider making. And just a couple of final ones. G2 were playing Lev, that was 15-7 to them, with Baby Bay in the team as we can see. So every game that they play, they may get increasingly scarier. And look, who knows how good they can be with Baby Bay? It is a good question. NRG were playing EG up 11-8. NBG, Sem were also up 12-9, but we don't know exactly who that was against. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.